All right, please silence your devices and cell phones. We're about to get started. All right, I've got 6 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, I call this meeting of Saginaw City Council to order. Please rise for the pledges.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, folks. Please be seated. I do not see a reverend here. I don't see anybody. Is there anyone that's feeling so moved to do the invocation? It could be some of the audience, staff member, council member, anybody feeling so moved? Don't all come at once. Go for it.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for today. We thank you for the beautiful weather and the life that you've given us. Lord, I pray that you would watch over us, that you would keep us safe, that you would protect our city, that you would protect the people who serve our city. Pray that you would give us wisdom to make decisions that are right for the city and that are pleasing to you. And ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Brack. Appreciate it. Audience participation, if you wish to speak on any item on the agenda, there's a list over there by the police chief. You can turn in a form and you're allowed to speak on any item that is on our agenda. Moving forward, we're at the consent agenda. I have been asked to pull 2C. We will discuss 2C. No, I'm sorry, 2D. We'll discuss 2D individually. So 2A is action regarding minutes from February 3rd. B is action regarding aquatic center repairs and improvements, and C is action regarding resolution declaring intent to reimburse amount of not to exceed $4.2 million for certain capital expenditures. Questions, comments on A, B, and C? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion we approve consent agenda A, B, and C as presented.
Thank you, Valerie. Do I have a second? Brack, second. Please cast your vote. Motion passed. Let the record reflect we have a quorum, full house tonight. Thanks for coming, folks. All right, 2D is action regarding purchase of right-of-way easement and real property located at the intersection of McElroy Boulevard and Saginaw Boulevard from seller Dick Elkins. Brent Meredith, City Attorney.
Yes,
Brent,
and I don't have a presentation about the logistics of this. I just wanted to let you.
I'm not going to make you get up there and talk.
Yeah.
You can do it from your seat. So.
You'll have to ask Trent about the logistics of the right-of-way and when that happens. But about 2 hours ago, I received a phone call from Mr. Elkins' attorney asking for 2 non-substantive changes to the agreement. So with your permission, I'd like to have a motion to approve if you're so inclined, and just subject to city attorney final approval. Okay. And then also add from what, and Gabe can comment on this if necessary, the purchase price. I understand it's going to go from $650,000 to $700,000. So that should be included as well if you support that. And that's going to be a Gabe.
Well, any questions for Brent about the substantive changes, the legal issues? Any questions?
Other than why they're going from 650 to 700.
That's a Gabe
That,
question.
I don't know. I don't have that.
Yeah, I can address that. So when we met with Mr. Elkins, he reminded me that we had talked about $650,000 plus an allowance for what will be vacated, the existing building. That's what we spoke about. It's within our project budget. It was just my error including that in the packet. So again, we have it.
It would be a not to exceed, right? Because
That is correct.
And they would send us the receipt and we would reimburse, right? That's how it would work?
Right.
So we'd pay the actual cost, not an estimated cost. It would be the actual money spent to demolish the building?
Right, and we
correct?
would only pay to acquire the strip upon, once the building is no longer there.
Okay.
So it's, we're doing that to include a dedicated turn lane at that intersection, which I think everybody, when we leave here, would probably recognize the need there. It's neat because it backs up, so.
Sure.
So when we buy the land, it's clean.
Correct. Now, we're getting, is it a 12-foot strip? 13, oh, unlucky. I'm glad Randy's not here tonight. But no, it's about a 13-foot strip, but the reality is, you may recall when we talked about this in the past, that if you cut 13 feet off, that negates the utility of that building, which Mr. Elkins, I think, has had plans in the future to redesign. And we'll also give him time to honor the commitments the current folks that are there. We wouldn't start that project until, we wouldn't bid that project until like fall of '27. So our next, or I guess the most immediate phase of not East McElroy. McElroy will be kind of right in front of us.
Right.
So that's a later phase.
Any other questions on this, on 2D?
Is there any time frame put in there to when he has to have it tore down and us to take possession of it?
Yeah, I've indicated to him that we need it before we bid, which would be September of '27. We need the transaction completed by then.
Any other questions for Bren? Legal questions, or for Gabe? Money questions?
And could I just have some
Please.
clarification too? And I'm sorry, Gabe and I were sort of visiting about this during the meeting, so I'm sorry. So the additional 50,000, that's on a reimbursement basis with documented receipts, or is the purchase price just increased by 50,000?
Yeah, I think it'd just be the purchase price, but it's only payable once the site's clean. Yeah.
Right.
That was
right.
our discussion.
But
Yeah.
no receipts, that's not a,
So when we talked about this before, we talked about up to $50,000 reimbursement, but we would pay the cost for the demolition up to that amount.
That was for a different,
that's up to you all.
yeah, that was for a different building. That was the building off that Mr. Elkins owns adjacent to this, the, next to the post office.
Well, because we talked about it and,
We talked about both, honestly.
yeah, and we thought that was kind of high for the demolition costs.
Yeah, I think the reality is there's likely abatement that has to take place.
You mean asbestos is what you mean, right?
Yes, based on the age. The city does not want to be involved in that. It's easier and more efficient to have the property owner do
I
it.
think so.
That's
I mean,
basically the cost.
I mean, Paul, per your question, we can add that if we want to. It's up to us. We can
I
add it.
mean, if we don't have to worry about the asbestos and stuff, then I'm all for just doing the 50,000 and
Okay.
being done with it.
Yeah, and that's a great point. That was kind of our thought, that we don't want to get in the abatement business, so.
Other questions, council? If not, I'll entertain a motion on 2D.
Mayor, I make a motion, we approve consent agenda item 2D.
I'll second.
Do we need to add the,
Yes, number one, with the increased
With the
purchase price to
the increased
700,000,
purchase price to 700,000.
and subject to the city attorney final approval of the language in the agreement.
Okay.
you want to make it
what
again,
Bren
Paul?
said.
Why don't you make it again?
Okay. I make a motion, we approve item 2D with the new purchase price of 700,000 and subject to city council or city attorney council approval.
Do I have a
I'll
second?
second.
Valerie, second? Okay. Please cast your votes. Motion passes. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Gabe. Moving forth, we are at 3, so we've got 3A, recognitions, presentations. What do we have?
I don't think we have any recognitions or presentations of staff tonight. No? So, moving on.
Well, no, I've got one thing if we don't have.
Do
that.
you? Okay, yes,
The
sir.
Justice of the Peace is here. Hey, Chris, welcome. You don't come very often. Glad to have you. Chris Gregory, Justice of the Peace, Precinct 4. So thanks for coming, sir. All right, go ahead, Gabe.
Yeah, next item, I'd like to introduce our presenter. Now, this will be a team effort with a number of staff. So Deeksha is going to talk to us about how professional services are procured. There's a lot of misconceptions out there. You probably have heard many of them. We're also going to phone a friend and ask the city attorney, Mr. Kersey, and our staff from Kimley Horn to discuss this. So a little bit about Deeksha. She is finishing up her master's degree at the University of North Texas. I talked to one of her professors. His name's Dr. Skip Kruger, and he was once upon a time a budget manager in Fort Worth. And Dr. Kruger, he told me, like, this is the smartest student I've ever had. Deeksha has a bachelor's degree in physics, right? Yeah, so if you've forgotten Newton's laws of thermodynamics, maybe we could cover that at the end in the question. No, I'm just kidding. No, we're really proud of her. We're happy she's with us. She's done great work. I shared a project, and Lee has shared a project that she worked on with some sales tax analysis, which was pretty incredible. So with that, if you want to get going, like say when there are stopping points, whether it's related to legal services or engineering, we'll jump in.
train leads.
Welcome, Disha.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll be presenting on how professional services are legally procured.
Can you pull the microphone down so we can hear you, so folks at
Okay.
home can hear you well?
Okay. So first thing is professional services are different than procurement services. And according to Texas Government Code, these professional services include city attorney, city engineer, auditing, and architect services. Also, according to state code, the selection of those professional services should be based on qualifications. Fee are negotiated after the most qualified firm is identified. And next are the steps for how city selects the professional firms. All this procedure is a qualification-based process. First, city issues the request for qualifications. After that, staff submits, the firms submit the experience and credentials. After that, staff evaluates the proposals, and then highest ranking firms are identified, and for the selection of the professional service, city council approval is required. So some of the points that city evaluates while scoring those professional services are, do that professional firm has any experience with municipality? Is their staff qualified enough to do the job? What are the past municipal projects that they have worked on? Do they have knowledge of local, state, and federal laws? What are the references or their performance history? Do they have any familiarity with local conditions? And there are many more parameters that staff looks into, and then they evaluate their scores, and that is presented to the council. Now, there are some misconceptions among people, and this presentation will answer them. First question is Kimley Horn a sole engineering firm that city uses? First, there is a clear distinction between an engineering firm contracted out on the basis of bids and a professional firm selected on the basis of qualifications. Also, city uses different engineering services providers. For example, for new library senior center, city has used PJAL, Campus Engineering, and CML Engineering. Rest of them are the sub-consultants that those engineering firms or architects firms have suggested to the city. And the another example is new fire station. City has used VRW Architects and Steel Freeman. And for the remodeling of John at Keter Library, city is contracting out with PJAL and MSF Hospitality. Next question is, does the city give blank checks to engineering and legal services? The answer to that is there is no blank check. Every individual project order has their own defined scope, negotiated fee, and council approval is required for that. Also, there are development plans and litigations which cannot be predicted in advance, and all spending is controlled and approved by the council.
I might stop you there, Diksha. So the things that, I want to reiterate this, and this is a misconception that's out there, that this city engineer specifically designs or over-designs a project to get the cost really high because they're taking some contingency fee or some percentage fee. This is woefully false. The way the council controls costs is through finding the correct scope. So I'll give the example of the council member, and I won't reveal his name. You can draw your own conclusion. We had a bridge in Highland Station Park.
It's not a bridge. We're never calling it a bridge.
Okay.
It's a nice walkway.
Water crossing. Initially, there was some thought to have a more elaborate project than what we ended up with. Through definition of that scope, we ended up with what I would call a culvert crossing that is functional, met our needs, and met the desires of the council. That's how the council controls cost. So this is really hard, and I've experienced this my entire career. People want to know, well, how much do they bill? Well, the answer is, truly, it depends. Depends on the project. You'll recall several times where our city engineer, or we have architecture projects, where we bring a project work order, a design contract specific to that project. That outlines the scope. Sometimes, most of the time, we don't make changes, but sometimes we do, based on the needs and desires of the council. So we don't get into is this principal, billing at X rate or Y rate. That's not, the law doesn't allow that. The other point I want to make related to engineering as well as our legal services is we don't necessarily control all of our costs that we incur related to these professional services. So legal services, a significant part of billable time is related to public information requests, as you're well aware. There are some folks who are quite active users of this. When we receive a request, it requires review by attorneys in Bryn's office who specialize in this, and they redact and release what the law requires. We can't tell people, no, we don't have the money, we're not going to provide your information. That's not legal. But we also need our attorneys to advise us on how to proceed. Similar dynamic as it relates to new projects in the city for engineering review. When somebody has a brand new project, they generally establish a meeting, a development review meeting. They sit down with Public Works, engineering, all our departments, and we figure out how we can get their project to a place where it can be approved. We explain all our requirements. Again, this is kind of market-based. We don't know when those projects are going to come in, yet we have a duty and an obligation to review them and make sure. So the people that you don't see in Kimley-Horn, we see Trent, we see Mason on occasion, so he's here for moral support. There's a whole lot of people within Kimley-Horn, as there are with Bryn's Firm and Toast, that are working behind the scenes for us all the time. It's a whole team.
And next slide is for the bidding process for the construction projects. So first is the design phase. After design phase, construction contracts are advertised for bids in the open market, and then construction manager or firms are selected for a reasonable price. Also, the price is market controlled, and those construction managers, they suggest sub-consultant engineers or architects, and this is value engineering, and it does the cost saving to the city. Also, for all this, council approval is required again. Next is, would an in-house city engineer or attorney eliminate the need for outside consultants, or would in-house professional services save money? So the answer is, for most of the cities, their in-house city engineer is project manager. It requires separate department, staff, tools, and technology. Examples are Flower Mound and Denton. Another example is Rick Trice. He used to work for City of Saginaw. He had an engineering degree, but he worked as project manager for the city. And also, with the limited resources city has, our current employees work beyond their job roles. Examples are Bill Hurst. He does inspections and quality assurance for new buildings. Lee Hall, he did project management for new library senior center. Doug Spears, he's been project manager for the new fire station. And next is in-house engineer reality. It is difficult to cover all the specialties for one single city engineer. Consultancy is still required if some expertise knowledge is needed on some specific topic like traffic or drainage. Also, city is getting built out, so hiring in-house city engineer, a fixed salary or benefit cost may remain regardless of workload. Also, most of the cities, they retain outside engineers even with the staff. So our current city engineering firm, Kimley-Horn, they provide specialization for landscape and parks, and they have a person assigned for those services too. Next is planning, utilities, and GIS, project management, environmental, traffic, drainage, survey, construction management. These are the pictures of Kimley-Horn, where they are working for some community events in Saginaw for Senior Center, and other two are the pictures where they are working on a project for bridge. In-house city attorney reality. Again, it is difficult for a single attorney to cover all the areas of municipal law. Counsel is still required for litigation or specialized matter. And the another thing is, outside legal services cost double if they are used when only as needed. Our current city attorney TOS, they provide specialization for litigation and appeals, nuisance abatement, economic development, oil and gas, real estate, elections, personnel and employment, contracts, school and public law. And there are some references from municipal associations, and I will read one of them. The Texas City Attorney Association notes that an in-house city attorney model is ideal for larger cities that can afford full staff, whereas specialist law firms offer great value to small and medium city by providing a wealth of experience without the city having to bear full-time costs.
Can you tell me what the acronym TOASE stands for?
Those are the names of the founding
the-
partners of the law firm.
Okay,
It's,
I didn't know.
yeah, Taylor, Olson, Atkins, Sorella, and Meredith. No, I mean Elam.
Is that a Freudian slip there, Brad?
That's right.
We won't tell him you forgot.
The guys that signed Bryn's check.
I actually thought, when I first glanced at it, I thought it was some government entity that we could.
All right, questions for Disha?
So I had a question, and maybe Dave, you can answer this. On the Freedom of Information Act request, I know that we can't control the cost of that, but that, some of that cost does get forwarded to the person who requested if it's over a certain amount, correct?
That's right. So I believe, I defer to Bryn, but if requests are going to be pretty elaborate, we can give an estimate to the requester of what our cost of preparing that information could be.
Yeah, that's right. So it's, the Public Information Act has a chart that lists all the various costs that you're allowed to charge. And if the request is over a certain number of pages, you can also charge for labor. The problem is you can't charge that person's salary. You can only charge the hourly labor rate that the legislature has dictated in the Public Information Act. So it does defray the cost somewhat, but it's not ever going to cover our services.
I'm glad I asked that. And then, as far as the scope, I see that council controls the cost, as far as approving that, but who controls the scope? Do we control the scope? Is it a partnership with city?
Yeah, so if it's for engineering services, I put this in an email to y'all. So the city council chooses the city engineer. The reality is they function as employees of Randy Newsom and Jared Kersey. They're directly accountable to them on a day-to-day basis. So that's a conversation that Randy, Jared have. And it may be helpful to hear from Jared
Yeah.
to talk about the day-to-day, interaction, because like I said, here at the meetings, we see Trent, we see Mason on a quarterly basis. He gets lonely. No, I'm just kidding. We see Mason a lot. Good guy. But the reality is there's a lot of staff interaction all the time and throughout the week. So if you want to address some of that.
Yeah, sure. So they're involved on many day-to-day operations with us. It'd be water, wastewater system operations, our plan reviews, development review committee. We get together on that. They help represent the city in certain areas, in talking with developers and such. Also our drainage system areas and things. So we are in constant contact with Kimley Horn daily, and they're very reliable, very available to us at a moment's notice.
So then what I'm hearing basically is that the city, in partnership with the city engineer, kind of confirms the scope together. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, really, we're responsible for the scope. We being you and Randy, you drive the scope, not the
We're the
engineering
final
firm.
say.
Yeah.
Yes.
The city drives the scope absolutely via Jared and Randy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in order for us as council to help control cost, we can't really, we can suggest or say, that we would like to see the scope changed, and then that's how that process would go.
So the way the council controls costs is through the approval of the individual project orders. So one of the council members, we had an estimate. It was just an estimate of a parks project. It was at William Houston. It was several $1 million, pretty elaborate. The big numbers get people's attention. The scope in that project included substantial amount of drainage work and subgrade work. It's just an estimate. That doesn't mean we have to do it, but that would be how the council says, okay, this much is right for us on a project-by-project basis. Another, I want to address a misinformation that's out there. I think there was some quote in social media land that we've spent like $18 million in the past 4 years. I can't seem to get to those numbers, neither can Kim. We have spent, as opposed to the recent past, more because we have bond projects that the city engineer, especially our roadway projects, are designing. That's not going to be forever. So I think after we get through bond projects, you'll see our engineering total costs decline substantially. That's a natural
I
progression.
think that came from when you look through like the ledger and you see where the money is spent, it's not broken out, you know? So it just says, you know, engineer, Kimley Horn, and then a dollar amount. And sometimes it's like 900,000, 800,000 a month, but those are for projects, correct?
Sure, the big amounts are always going to be for projects. The day-to-day happens when it happens, related to the water, wastewater system, drainage. Development review is market-based. So when the economy's hot, we get a lot of projects in. We have a project y'all are well aware of that has submitted, I think we're up to lucky 16 times of plans. This is a big parcel by Saginaw High School. We have to review that when it comes in. We can't say, no,
Sure.
not this time.
Yeah.
That is another cost that over time in the near future, we're just running out of raw developed land. That's going to decline. So our future engineering projects are going to be more redevelopment focused, and they're going to be smaller in nature, simply because there's fewer big parcels left to review.
Right. So is it fair to say that the dollar amount, when it comes out on the ledger and it says, you know, a check's written to Kimley Horn for $9 million, that could be a total for a project, but the project, that money's probably getting paid to some contractors that are actually doing the work? Is that correct? No?
No, but Kim
Okay.
can address that.
If the check is written to Kimley Horn, it's for services provided by Kimley Horn. I'm not sure exactly, there's many general ledger accounts.
Right.
And so there's been recent public information requests. All of the checks written to Kimley Horn are by account. So there's an account for Knowles Phase 2 and 3. There's an account for Old Decatur Road North. There's an account for McElroy Phase 3. There's an account for McElroy Phase 2A. You know, so all of those are the amounts that we've paid to Kimley Horn for those projects. And then there's also something separate that we pay to Kimley Horn, which are general services, which are the kind of things that Gabe was just referring to as far as development review.
Okay.
I would add too, I think this is timely because we're planning on a bond election to address the misinformation. Because if people see, especially the large dollar amounts, they go crazy.
Sure.
So, yeah, this is a good time to discuss this.
Any other questions for Disha? Thank you, ma'am. Who's next? Oh, I want to point out the graphic there is a roundabout, or early showing what a roundabout would be and how safe it is. So that's exciting now that we have them. All right, who's up next?
Mayor and council, good evening. So I'm presenting tonight for your consideration and action regarding the award of municipal engineering services. During our request for qualifications process, we received proposals from 4 engineering firms. It was Kimley Horn, Westwood, Teaganall Perkins, and James Diott Engineering. These 4 proposals were reviewed by a scoring committee comprised of city staff and were evaluated for their services. After staff's evaluation of services, staff's recommendation to council for engineering services is to recommend Kimley Horn Engineering for your consideration and action tonight. I would like to give you some background as to why staff came to this recommendation. While all the proposals were professionally made and received great feedback from their references, city staff feels confident in this selection and recommendation of Kimley Horn. This confidence is based on a 46-year working relationship between the City of Saginaw and Kimley Horn. Kimley Horn's institutional knowledge of our community, infrastructure, and future needs and wants are entrenched in our day-to-day operations. Kimley Horn currently helps with maintenance and operation of our water and wastewater system, development review, and street and drainage system designs. They also design and help oversee with our capital projects and other various projects in the city. Randy could not make it tonight, but know this, that I speak for him and myself when I say that our entrusted reliance is in Kimley Horn's services, and it's not taken lightly by our staff, as we know that this community we serve receives very high-quality services from Kimley Horn because of their expertise and resources they have available. Consistent workflow is paramount for our operations, and Kimley Horn helps us achieve that with their reliability, availability, and institutional knowledge. It is also worth noting, during our development reviews, we review plan sets from developers who use different engineering firms, even some of the firms who send in proposals for this RFQ process. And because of our firsthand experience reviewing other plans from other firms, staff feels highly confident in retaining Kimley Horn services for our needs. Lastly, I just want to highlight a couple of more items of how Kimley Horn has produced and provided excellent service to our community. In 2021, during the winter weather event that shut down Texas for a few days, while surrounding municipalities were experiencing underground water main breaks in their system, Saginaw had zero. This is a direct result of Kimley Horn's direction and planning with our staff to upgrade and maintain our water system. This saved the city thousands of dollars during that weather event. And recently, Saginaw was awarded a grant that Kimley Horn applied us for to receive $1,275,000 to add new sidewalks and signal lights in the Basswood Boulevard area and Jarvis Road. So that's just to name a few of the things that they do for us. That's really scratching the surface. But like I said earlier, we'd like to present them tonight for your consideration and award. I'll take any questions you may have.
Questions for Jared?
I don't have any questions other than the sidewalk thing that we talked about. I know it's kind of outside of this, but I just want to say I appreciate that Kimley Horn was willing to meet with us so quickly and address the crosswalk issue there with the roundabout. And I really, really appreciate having Kimley Horn on our side when it comes to that project with all the lights and dealing with Encore, because that was the one that I saw that really brought the light to my eyes. That was like, okay, they're putting in a lot of work that we don't see. So,
You're here. Other questions, council?
I spoke to Jarrett earlier today, and I just on possibly using a landscaping engineering firm for parks. How would we handle that after our discussion to where we could source some of that work out? Because I feel like, as I mentioned to you, they've come in with really big numbers. The water crossing was one of them. I've worked with Randy on getting some possible monument signs for Willow Creek Park, and it came in at this astronomical number. Plus, there's grant money out there, there's firms out there that advertise that they've got like a 90% success rate, and I don't think we're capitalizing on that, and I would like to see us outsource at least the park stuff to another company.
After talking with Gabe today and everything, we can definitely look to outsource those types of projects and start going out for bids. We can definitely look into that.
And the other question I have on the score sheets, it says experience of 5 years or more, and it's 30 points. Two of the score sheets gave it 30, and one of them, or gave one of the other bidders 30, and one of them says 29. If they've got more than 5 years of experience, that's 30 points.
Yes, I believe the sheet you're referring to is the one that Randy and I did. And so just to explain how we ranked that, how we interpreted that system, we ranked each one who had the most years of experience, and we gave them the highest ranking and went down from there. That's how we interpreted that question.
So are you saying each person who filled this out interpreted it differently?
I can't speak for,
Probably.
yeah.
Humans are like that.
It's subjective.
You know, yeah.
Yeah.
Mayor, council,
Go ahead.
I can address the park design issue. I think that's probably the easiest service, and it doesn't affect day-to-day operation to split out. I looked at the firm Mayor Pro Tem mentioned. They advertise success rate with procuring grants, which is good. They don't do all their in-house civil, so they're farming that out. So probably some way, if we were to proceed that route, but I think that's a really easy thing to split out. If you recall, Willow Creek Station in 2019, we finished a design contract that Project Dreamplay had started with La Terra Studio. They're out of Dallas, just like this firm. I think they did a good job. There's some drainage issues we had to come back and fix, but you know, it's something really easy to do.
Other questions, council? For Jared or Gabe? Go ahead, Sean.
No, I was just gonna say, so how would we move forward with this if we were to break that out, or is it something that we can do later?
Yeah, I think on a project-by-project basis, we would just bring park design projects to the council or do an RFQ. Really, we'd probably only engage a design firm if we did a new park, because like our current scope of park projects is basically renovations. We're just replacing playgrounds, which has minimal design cost. Is that fair?
Yeah. We have the parks
Yeah.
plan.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, you know, let's say if voters were to approve our money that is going in May, you know, that may be part of it. We could hire one firm to do park-related projects, and it's pretty simple. Either the same process, RFQ, review, recommendation to council.
So why can't we just, I mean, I understand we've got this analysis that we've done. Take that, what it is. There's a lot of questions, a lot of things that different people is asking about, specifically when you say public services, it's more towards our engineering services, not legal. Why can't we, is there any reason why council couldn't ask for the top 2 or top 3 to come in and present to council? Brent, is there any legal reason why we couldn't?
No, you certainly are authorized to do that if that's what council's wish is.
So keep in mind, and we're happy to do whatever, but the negotiation is related to qualifications, not price. And the people that can advise you the best on qualifications are the people that work every day with engineering services. Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, go ahead, Nikki, I'm sorry.
I just know, I'm here representing the citizens. And I know that there may be not a large, but there's a consistent group that has concerns. And, I talked about this over a year ago here, brought it before the council and talked about it. And so I'm just trying to make sure that from a council standpoint, that we have all the information we need to make a deciding decision. Because here's where I look at it. I try to look at, okay, if I split out the parks and stuff like that, because Kimley Horn's not doing a good job, then why aren't I looking at the other departments too? You see what I'm saying? I mean, I
Yeah.
don't see anything in here, in this paperwork here, in this thing here, I don't see any data that tells me that I should be or should not be going in that direction. And I am an engineer. And when I start making decisions with non-sound data, I start getting nervous. And that's what I'm afraid of here, and that's why I lean back
Jared address that?
I do think that we have an opportunity here to really do if the council, the rest of the council wants to do a deep dive, let's get together and say, okay, what are we looking to, put this to bed once and for all? Because I definitely know that there's more than me, I might be the one speaking, but I definitely know that there's more than me that is uncomfortable about this. And so, make me comfortable, I mean, Jared, I'll talk to you today, I think we'll do exactly what I would like to see. And I want to give the rest of my fellow council members a chance to do that, and that's why I said, thank you. We listen to each one of them, give their pitch, ask questions, tear this apart, and then see.
And that's,
Not leaning towards taking it.
that's sort of what we asked staff to do. So if you were going to disregard staff's recommendation, that's fine, but that's what you would be doing. Because we asked staff to dig into this, and that's what they did. That's why they voted and had put it in as much quantitatively as they could. We can discuss the quantitative data there or not, but that's what we asked staff. Said, what do you think? Why? Can you give us some? And of course, they asked for the proposals, which is very fair. I'm inclined to go with what our staff recommends because they certainly work with on the day-to-day basis. They're the ones that have to do this, not us. I've had a good working relationship with Kimley Horn for many years because they've been our engineering firm for many years. I like the history. When we were, for example, when we were working on finishing up the bridge, we had some questions as to how this started. And so they were able to pull up data and emails and plans from way back in the early 2000s when the bridge was first even a concept to sort of walk us through how we got to where we were. And I had a long conversation with our former city manager, Nan, about them years ago, about her thoughts, and she was very positive because she'd worked with them for the whole time that she'd been here at the city. So that's part of the reason, but then we wanted to take a look and get some hard data, and that's what the staff gave us. So I'm definitely inclined to agree with the staff and move forward that way. I don't know if bringing in, as you said, dog and pony would do us any good, and because staff's already really done that work for us. And if you're saying that, we don't trust staff, that's fine, but just keep in mind that's what you are saying. So, and other questions, like I said, I'm one of 7 as well. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, those of us up here on city council don't have the expertise that our staff has to make these kinds of decisions. And yes, we do have an engineer on the city council, and I'm sure he's very knowledgeable about many different engineering subjects, but he's just one of 7. And that's why we have a staff. They are qualified, they are the experts. So I think we aren't qualified. If several firms came up here and made a presentation, say 3 firms came up here and one firm had an excellent presentation and they sounded so good, but really doing the work, we don't know how to judge that. And so I feel like we should go with our staff and do what they recommend.
I would just like to add again how invaluable institutional knowledge is. Even any career you're in, you want to retain that knowledge in your organization, whether that be an employee or whatnot. And to have to go out and basically start all over with another firm would be devastating to our operations. That would take time away from our other responsibilities to have to start all over, in essence. So I really want to bring that point up. And then also, we had touched on in-house engineering. About a year ago, I sent an email out to 28 different municipalities, to different city managers, public works directors. Only received 11 responses back, but all 11 use an outside source. The city of Haslett, they did have an in-house engineer, but they ended up doing away with that position, they had to go outside because their growth got so big, and they've actually done away with an in-house engineer position because it's the same amount of money either way. So it's what's best it's staff's recommendation of what's best for our city. At the end of the day, we have to do what's best for the operations of our community. So.
Thank you, Jared. Other questions for Jared or for Any staff?
Just a comment.
Go ahead, Paul.
I have no problem with Kimley Horn for the road stuff, but the park stuff is where, we had the meeting at the fire station and went over the numbers. Decisions were made by the Parks Board based on numbers, and those numbers, to me, they just didn't line up. And I'd like to get another 1 or 2 firms to actually go through our parks plan and look at those numbers and see if in fact they're realistic or not, going forward.
Again, that's an easy scoping exercise. It's just a matter of what the correct scope is. When you're talking about the core functions of the city engineer, we're talking the water and wastewater system, staying with the firm that designed and have maintained it in good shape, as well as roadway design. Kimley Horn is currently doing the most, I believe, roadway projects in Tarrant County. So Tarrant County Bond, Bedford, they're big enough they can handle us. The parks are like small potatoes compared to the bread and
Well,
butter.
you look at, we asked for a design for the fishing pond over at Highland Station, just putting some basic walking trails, and they came back with $16 million. We asked for a water crossing. We told them we wanted basic. They told us we couldn't do a box culvert, and then lo and behold, we came back and we did a box culvert, and then they came back with numbers at like $1.5 million. We're not, we need to look at this stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And if it's the council's pleasure, pulling parks design out, that's the easiest thing to do because it's not every day, so.
Well, and let's talk, we were talking about drainage, same thing.
Yeah.
When we talked about the Golden Gate Bridge over there.
Right.
We don't have a bridge.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
They brought up the creek over there that's got erosion. And when they came to us, they said, well, you can design it with 1 wall or 2 walls. And so me as an engineer, I come back and said, well, which do we need? And what's the ramifications if I go with 1 wall versus 2 walls? And never did get a straight answer. And for us sitting up here, again, Mayor's absolutely right, we're not experts, okay? And when I asked an engineer, if I go with this option A versus option B, they dang well better be able to tell me what the consequences is if I go with the back wall, if big rain comes, is that gonna push the water out into my park and flood it? That's not something, that's something that they should be able to answer like that if they're doing the design for us.
Right.
Those are the things that eat at me.
Yeah, I get it. And in that situation, I think we ended up where we needed to be. We have not designed the channel for the future improvements, although we have discussed it. So that's a future scope and discussion issue. If the question is Kimley Horn, or specifically the staff person Misty, she handles all of our drainage projects. Is she qualified to do it? She absolutely is. I mean, anybody in DRC that sat down with the project knows. I think engineers generally tend to be quite cautious and risk averse and maybe, assume the ultimate state. When we talked about that project, we talked about phasing it. The reality is we're not going to have cash on hand to do that all at once. Am I off base there? I mean, and that's something we'll have.
We can understand, but these are things they came and presented to us.
Mhm.
We asked what I consider is basic, fundamental questions, engineering questions on a design that they couldn't answer.
Yeah, so,
And then they said, it's up to you. It's up to us. You're the architect. You tell us.
yeah. Can you address that, Trent, with some, yeah.
I recall this discussion slightly different, but I mean, we were conceptually planning out how to handle the erosion in that creek. We took a lot of direction from Randy and their firsthand experience on maintaining that creek. So, if the question is ever to determine the water surface elevation, that's something we do all the time, but that's not something I can, determine on the spot. But that type of modeling is our bread and butter services.
And we can determine, the other part of it is too, is there's lots of projects, but the difficult position for y'all is to determine the priority. So the current big picture drainage project priority is on Saginaw Boulevard. We'll come back and get to that. That's where most of our attention and our design dollars, what is it, phase 1?
And this isn't your question, the priority or anything. It was something that was presented to council. You presented to us, we're going to ask questions.
Sure.
Usually. And these were pretty basic questions.
Sure, so we can get you the number. What is it specifically you want the phases and the probable cost estimates channelized?
No, what we're getting at is it's planting that seed of doubt is what's happened.
Yeah, I mean, we asked them, they presented something to us, we went, oh, okay, and they said option A or option B.
Right.
Okay, they said you could have 2 walls and have it thing, or you could have 1 wall, and then the other one would just drain out into the park.
Sure.
Okay, well, I asked, which should we go with? What are the advantages and disadvantages? Of course, the 2-wall one's gonna be more expensive, okay? But I may wanna go with the more expensive one if every time now this is causing a flooding thing and it's gonna flood out my park, right? And, you know, those are the questions that the engineers have to answer for us.
Sure.
You know, so that we can make an informed decision.
Sure.
So you're asking for this is what's giving some of us heartache here. Just basic, simple stuff like that.
Yeah.
We don't feel like we always are getting, the question that we ask doesn't get answered.
But, hey, I'll accept blame because when when the crossing was finished, through the CIP, we determined that we weren't gonna do, at least in this year, another drainage project there.
Oh, yeah.
We've identified on the out years, but I think to Trent's point, that's an easy discussion. You know, whether it's all channelized, both sides, we
Well,
can get that to you.
And just that type of question has so much more additional context. So, I mean, if we're trying to limit erosion control, there's 8 different ways to handle that erosion control.
Absolutely.
But there's so much else that goes into it, upfront costs, maintenance access, impacts adjacent to the homes or to the park. So I think, I'm starting to recall the discussion you're referring to. And I mean, there are still several viable options to help that erosion control in that park. I mean, one of them that we're even looking at is just extending that box culvert under the road all the way through the park and filling it in if we can get it permitted. So, I don't know, that's a tough one just because there are multiple viable options that just have adjacent context to the answer, right? It's not just a straightforward which one works or which one doesn't. There's several that work.
And I'm just, like, I'm speaking from citizens that I've talked to and things like that. It also seems like a lot of times when we ask for something, and everybody wants the absolute best, right? The Rolls Royce of everything we get. And it seems like a lot of things we ask for, we need, like the walkway across the creek over there in Highland Station. We need that. We don't need Golden Gate Bridge thing. And a lot of times it seems like that's what we get, and we're forced to, well, this is it. And
It took Nick and I out there measuring everything and coming up with another plan for it to get where we got today, which suits its purpose for a lot less money that was originally proposed.
I think that's valid feedback, and whenever there was a transition from Rick Trice to Randy, there were a lot of times where there were requests here at council that I would wait and see, is this something that I need Randy to confirm? And there were requests that I do feel like got dropped or took a little while to actually respond to, but I mean, I would look for feedback, but you know, I think in the last couple of years, as we've kind of hit our groove, I mean, we're serving y'all as quickly as we can. We worked with Sean to find cost-effective options to improve those pedestrian crossings, and so, yeah, willing to accept all the feedback, and I do acknowledge that those did happen in years past, but I feel like we've hit our groove in the last few years working with Randy and Jared.
Well, and one thing to keep in mind, a lot of times we'll get, as you said, options. And they could be very expensive options down to cheap options. That's our job to pick. We handle the money, so if you ask an engineer, how can I fix this? They're gonna give you can fix it, you can spend $10 million or you can spend $1 million. And that's what we do. We filter it down, that's our role. We're not the nuts and bolts design, but we're like, okay, we don't need, as you said, a Rolls Royce, we need a Chevy or whatever we need. And that's the council, that's how we control costs. You mentioned how we control costs, that is how we control costs, with the scope, with recommendations from Jared and Randy. So I think it's a little unfair to say Kimley Horton didn't give us what they need. They may have given us too much, or yes, they give us, and they're gonna wanna build something good that they're proud of. Sure, maybe we don't need that. That's up to us to decide, and you said, as you mentioned, ask questions, say, hey, why do we need this? Do we need this one? Option A, option B, what's the difference? That's what they give, but ultimately it's us. And the money that's, we control the pocketbook. So we can't really push it back on the engineer and say, you're spending too much, you're spending too much. We're the ones that ultimately are responsible for that. And everything comes through us. So we have an opportunity to say yes or no, or as you said, cut it down. The project is too, the scope, whatever. That's totally the council.
Here's another thing, is this Saturday in the morning, you come over to Keller, or Little Park, and me and my grandson will be fishing for trout. We're gonna be doing it Saturday morning, okay? 3 years ago, in this exact same council, we asked for two things. Well, actually, the mayor said was to see what it would cost to put a tank, a pond in over at Willow Creek. And an estimate to at least put, we said it didn't even have to be concrete, it could just be gravel around the already tank we have over here, on the other side of town, so that we could at least begin utilize that. And what would it just cost to put the bare minimum, so that people could start utilizing it, and maybe we could have that added in and start getting it mobilized. And I'll mention, they came back with a 16-point-some million thing, and nothing's been done. So we've got a nice tank over there, which people could be using. And if we did just a little bit every couple of years, it could be something really nice that a lot of people could use. It'd be a water thing, you know. Who knows, we could get with the Texas Fish and Wildlife, and they could come trout loose in ours. And instead of me going all the way to Keller tomorrow, I could be going over to Saginaw.
Nick, I'm sorry, is your microphone on? I can hardly hear you.
Now it is.
Okay.
But anyways, and I didn't mean for this to be a get out the stick and beat up on Kimley Horn, but, you know, I kind of look at this every year. I give people in my group who report to me a review, and I guess this is kind of a review.
Other questions, Council?
The Parks Board is making decisions off of the numbers that were provided. When they see $16 million for that, they're gonna put it on the back burner. But if it's $2 million or $1.5 million, then it's gonna get looked at. And right now, it's on the back burner.
And I do agree that eventually maybe we want to get to that $60 million, but we can't eat that whole pie. Saginaw's not that big. We can't eat that whole pie at once. And I remember when that was prepared, we actually said, boy, can this be pared down to where, you know, it's a small slice of the apple pie? And we never got that answer.
No, we did that exercise, and we pared it down to, it was either 1 or 2 million, and we worked with Randy to talk about, can we work with the Tarrant County to get those parking lots paved by the county rather than brand new concrete? And we ended up with options where we phased it fairly simple. But all cards on the table.
Yeah.
I also really struggle with the costs that are in our parks master plan. And I've had multiple discussions with our team about these cannot be realistic numbers. I had them do a cost exercise where they showed me every bid item and all the bid tabs that they had from their other projects. And so I compared all of their bid items versus actual projects that were bid for other municipalities. So that's where we are comparing our data, is from other projects that are actually bid with the dozens of cities that we serve. I still really struggle to understand how a restroom can be that expensive. So I understand where you are coming from. The one time we actually did try to build out a restroom with Randy, we came to find out that the cost they had in there was accurate. We could not find someone to build a restroom for less than, it was like $300,000. It was outrageous. And that's where we ended up going with the portable restroom. So I'll just put all the cards on the table. I do struggle with the cost that some of these parks estimates come up with, and I've challenged them to dial those in, and they have the best they can, but if that's just something we can't get past, I mean, we've done our best, but I totally understand the frustration from that end.
And if we can't do it all, or think, so this is first I heard that y'all pared it down from 16.8 or something like that, million down to 1 million. Okay, that's great. Maybe it came back before council, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, I think it went to the Parks Board as well,
Yeah.
because it was clear that that was your priority. We had
We did.
defer to Jared.
It did go to the.
Yeah. So the other issue, and again, the numbers are big and scary, the other issue is there's other requirements that are triggered by the city as a governmental entity related to drainage and waters of the U.S. So I know, and you and I have had this conversation, if it was us back home, you'd get a backhoe and you'd dig a pond. Sadly, the city cannot operating that function because, you know, the watershed and the floodplain and all these type of things. So-
Gabe, it's what I'm hearing in sort of several conversations. A lot of this seems like a communication issue.
Yeah, that's right.
In sticker shock, yeah.
How can we, well, not sticker shock even, but how can we get better communication? I think that seems to be some of the root cause of this, if I'm hearing it correctly, via going from Kimley Horn to Randy and Jared's group to us to you. How can we do that better? I think that might be a little of this, or maybe a good part of this, is the communication with council is not as clear as we would like, or it's not as timely, maybe?
Sure.
I don't know.
I think the best way is to probably workshop it in a public setting and talk about all these. And again, it all comes down to scope. No one's really debating, I don't think, whether Kimley Horn is qualified. We're talking about the scope or how elaborate or minimal we want to be. So that's an easy fix.
I would like us to really seriously, going forward, figure out how we can do a better job of the communication angle on
Yeah,
this.
sure.
I think that seems to be a contributing factor to some of this, and that would be something that we can handle. We can fix that. I don't have an answer tonight, but Randy and Jared can fix that and make that a better, smoother, more frequent operation. I don't know, maybe I'm thinking of a monthly engineering report, or I don't know. I'm just thinking or a monthly, even quarterly, they come before us and do a recap of a project, something like that. That's communication, so just think about that, please. Brett, go ahead.
And I would also say it might be good to run an exercise of something that is almost ridiculously cheap, just to show us, okay, you can do this, but here's the disadvantages to that. And so that we have a point of reference on the low end, because we only have the point of reference on the high end. It seems like a lot of times it's like you're going to spend $15 million or you're just not going to do the project. Well, no, give me something that we can look at and go, well, I'm willing to take those trade-offs, knowing what those trade-offs are. That would be helpful as well.
Something else that might be helpful is not to
Can you turn your microphone, please? Sorry.
not to compare us with the bigger cities. We can't keep up with the big cities, boys. It just don't work like that. We're a small city. We can't compete with Dallas and Fort Worth and all them. We don't have extra money to spend on roundabouts with the art things in there, That costs too much. So we need to remember we're a smaller city, please.
So, yeah, I would like to circle back to about this, the summary for the qualifications. I feel like I kind of want to know more about this with the experience, especially, since you can speak to it since it's on your name, the 5 years experience or more. I mean, I'm not quite understanding, because I almost feel like that's the only category on your report that has anything lower than a perfect score. So I'm just trying to figure out, it would almost be better for me to make my decision if they were all perfect and you just said, they're all perfect, but we have this long-standing relationship, I want to go with them. So I'm just trying to figure out why specifically those got lowered.
So I think in that situation, Mr. Kersey would have the details. We had a firm that submitted that actually did work for the city on a separate project. They proposed an engineering solution that staff protested with the help of Kimley Horn. The ultimate determination was related to drainage, and Misty saved the city several $100,000 going with the current design, which happens to be across the street. Lee was intimately aware. That's factored in. Jared mentioned this earlier, but staff sees plans that are submitted by some of these other firms, and that factors in. If that makes sense.
Okay. I was just curious, because it doesn't say that here. It says experience working with municipalities and experience of 5 years or more.
Right.
So is it experience with our municipality or just
That's
municipal?
correct in that.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we're not going to call the firm out, but.
Sure, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One person we haven't heard of who also did a grading on this is our assistant city manager. I'd love to hear his thoughts on the grading and just the process and what your thoughts were, Lee, because you've got the experience.
Yeah, again, as we've said many times, that we graded 4 firms on qualifications to be our city engineer. I downgraded Kimley Horn because frankly, they left something out of the RFP that was one of the categories that they were supposed to put in there. And, and it came down, in my opinion, it came down to them and one other firm that were very close in the ratings. But I don't think you can use, well, it's difficult to use historical data, which we have here within our experience, to qualify other firms that aren't involved in that. So we do know, we are familiar with Kimley Horn. They have done an excellent job. As Gabe said, one of the competing firms had a design that was of the building across the street that more than likely was going to cause us a huge problem in the future had it been built that way. And Kimley Horn, they addressed it and presented a different design. So that was fresh in my mind when I was grading some of the things that I could grade in terms of qualifications. So again, if it were not an assessment of qualifications to be our city engineer, it might turn out differently.
Thank you, Lee. Appreciate that. Any other questions? We're still on 3B. I want to sort of wrap this up. Any other questions on this topic and this, for the folks we have here?
I thought we were on 4A.
I don't know if we ever officially fixed the 4A, but we can now. So 4A is consideration and action regarding award of bid. So we were talking about professional services and the whole review, but I would say we're on 4A now. Any questions, other questions, or are we ready to make a motion? All right, 4A, consideration action regarding award of bid for municipal engineering services. Jared, anything you want to add to that you haven't already said? I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we table this.
For how long? Or do we need to say how long?
How long would it take to get a presentation from the other companies?
That's probably hard to determine tonight. Can we leave it, if we table, can we leave it open-ended, Bryn?
You can table it and provide Gabe the discretion to bring it back when he's ready with the
Okay.
various candidates for presentation.
Is that fair? That work for you?
Yep, I'll second it.
All right, Paul, second. Please cast your votes. Motion passes. It is tabled, TBD. So we will come back to this at some point in the future. 4B, consider action regarding amendment number 1, individual project order with Kimley Horn Associates for final design of McElroy Boulevard Phase 3. Trenton Tidwell, Kimley Horn.
So since Randy's not here, I'll present this. We've been working with Randy and Jared on McElroy Phase 3 for several years now. We originally set the alignment in the cross-section of the project to be tailored towards some grants that we were applying for, the TA, Transportation Alternative Set-Aside Grants. Part of those grants were to have shared use path on both sides of the roads. Unfortunately, the 2 years we applied, we received feedback that we were very close, but we did not receive the grant awards. So now we have changed our cross-section to where we have a 8-foot sidewalk on the north side and a 5-foot sidewalk on the south. Why that's important is because when there were the 10-foot shared use paths on both sides, we were not able to keep the cemetery parking that was adjacent to there. We had a lot of coordination with staff on that, although it was a difficult decision. It was going to, they were going to use the library parking for parking, and we also coordinated with Robert Ellis from the cemetery board with that decision. But recently, there has been more discussions with Randy, and he's asked us to look and do everything we can to get that parking back in. So in the current plan, there are only 2 or 3 parking spots that we were able to squeeze in. Obviously, we cannot buy right away from the cemetery, so that was all we were able to get. But with this proposed change, we would actually completely redesign about a quarter of this project, shift the alignment down, to be further in the right-of-way to where we could accommodate all 3 travel lanes and the 4th parking lane that would be adjacent to the cemetery.
Council questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion, we approve item 4B.
I'll second.
Valerie, second. Please cast your votes. Motion passes. Thank you, folks. 4C, consideration action regarding resolution 2026-02, 2026 work plan. Gabe.
Mayor and Council, just following up, I think a quick presentation, follow-up from our last discussion on this item. The request is to have some milestones based on quarters, and I've also identified the leaders for each project. It's not just me, this is citywide. So I don't intend to go through this in too much detail. The reality is we'll, as we've agreed in the past, we'll discuss this each month, do a status update. You know, I can blow through them pretty quickly. Personnel.
Gabe, why don't you just hit the high points?
Yeah,
and
happy to do that.
Council can interrupt with questions as they see fit.
Sure. Personnel manual update. Melanie and Lee have got some stock documents, policy documents, that staff will begin reviewing. Sounds like an easy project. Lots of these projects sound really easy, but there's a lot more to it. So we take the template project, we review that internally. That goes out to department heads for further review. We pick and choose what we like. That goes to the city attorney for review, and then ultimately we come back and bring that to the city council for adoption or review.
So are we on track to have that done, the first part done by Q1, into Q1?
So we've already got the best practice policy, right? Yeah. So Q1 we would procure the template documents, and then we would begin the review process. So yeah, definitely.
Because Q1's done into March, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, the template, that's sort of a back of house function, staff review before, and then like I said, each department weighs in. Policies vary by department. There's different procedures, different hiring standards, requirements, that sort of thing. Communication, informational awareness, the council took action to call a bond for May. We have begun our informational, preparing the information that will go out to all of our residents. So we had a one-page flyer that went out today. It will go out in utility bills that shows the propositions A, B, and C, real brief description of them. We are in the process of building a website that references design documents and sort of the backstory of why we selected those projects. The intent is to have, and I may preface this by saying that all of these documents will be reviewed by bond counsel, bond attorneys, to make sure that they're informational only in nature and not advocating. We're not telling people, you know, you have to vote for this, because that is not legal. So the next part of that, outside of our printed material, would be related to informational videos. Y'all have probably seen the real positive reaction related to videos. There's lots of people that'll watch a video, but they won't read a little short blurb. So we feel like that's a way where we can inform and probably address a lot of questions that are out there related to the projects.
Have we started reaching out to the HOAs and stuff, identifying, areas that we can have also along with this town halls and garage cabs?
Yeah, so don't think we've reached out to HOAs yet. We have a tentative list for town halls that are based on project. It'll be a town hall related to roadway projects, town hall related to park improvements, and then one for the animal shelter. And then we'll probably have a fourth one to summarize. So that's the plan. We've encouraged people on the social media for the animal shelter to visit as they have time or interest and see the existing facility. So.
Does the city have a list of the chairmans of each HOA?
We have some contacts for HOAs. I'd have to check with Pedro. We do have a pretty good contact of.
So I want to challenge each of my council members and my mayor that each one of us ought to seek to have pick an area of the city and have a garage cab, and we should drive it. I'm willing to do that.
Okay, that's fair.
One thing I want to note, in addition to our informational videos, we intend to record all of the town hall meetings based on project and then have that on our project website. So if people miss it, they can see, maybe answer some of the questions. Spoke with Alina before the meeting, and there was already sort of some misinformation, misconceptions floating out there. That's good. Let's fix it now so people have the correct information to make whatever decision they're going to make. And to the extent that the themes are common, we know what those pinch points are, what people want to know about. So,
Yeah, I saw one of them today. They saw $6 million for a park, and they took it as a park and not multiple projects.
yeah, yep. And that's something we need to address.
Well, and
We
I
just
think,
gotta stay on top of it. And one of the reasons I'm mentioning HOAs is cause if we do it, like say over in my area, at Highland Station, if we do it in Fire Station 2, not even council can be positive or pro about it. But if we have it say there I call it.
At your house?
At my house, absolutely, I'm good for that, make some burgers. We can talk about it as positively as much as we want.
and is it possible to, as part of this, kind of also be informational about the boundaries where Saginaw lies? Because I think it'd be good to group that in, because a lot of people are saying, well, they're doing all these projects, and then
Yeah.
they find out that it's
They're
not.
outside the city.
Yeah, they're outside the city.
Yeah.
They're very, very nearby, and I understand it affects the community, but it'd be.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Happy to show city limits map. In fact, I think last week when there was a post about the old Decatur reconstruction, some people were complaining about Bailey Boswell, but like west, outside the
Right.
city limits, so, yeah.
It's because they live in 76179. That's
Right.
what it is.
Yeah, that could be.
It's a zip code. They think that's Saginaw.
They
Yeah.
don't want their water bill, I guess?
Yeah.
I will tell you, there's a couple out there that say it's one street over, and if you tell them they live in Fort Worth and not Saginaw, they
They
get a little,
yell at
they
you.
get a little upset.
Oh, I've
right.
had people argue with me about, I know what the border are, it's not up for debate, it's a concrete
I know where it
line.
is too,
Yeah.
so yeah.
So I think long-term, hopefully we can help with that, but it'll take a few years, but we're replacing our street signs with the nice new template the council approved, so that's sort of clear. Although we are, on some streets, one side is Fort Worth and one side Saginaw, so, yeah. Next project, project leaders Maria. This has been broached once with the Parks Board. They'll pick that discussion up again. First action item is to draft some bylaws and a structure. Next action would be to get the Park Board's feedback. My understanding is the Park Board just generally wanted more information on how it would function. Now, this is something that could occur independently of the council, because this is not a city entity, and the city council wouldn't have direct control, but it's a discussion that began with y'all to consider. So we'll just keep
It'd be nice
Keep
just
talking.
to keep us up to date, to let us know that it's
Sure.
awful needed.
Yeah. This is kind of two priorities in one project. One is to have a tree assessment to show us how and where we could include more trees in the future through a nonprofit, the Texas Trees Foundation. They're out of Dallas, I believe, and they do like some recommendations and surveys for cities. And we would talk to other cities who have these projects in place. The other part of the project would be to determine likely an incentive for folks to replace or replant trees in other locations where they're not damaging pavement. So that's a benefit to the homeowner and of course the city, the less damage we take.
We've changed that ordinance, so if they cut the tree down, they can't put it back.
Right.
So we just need to.
Yeah, I think we,
Yeah, get the word out. Well, I call it, the carrot and stick, right?
Yeah.
Is we've got some neighborhoods, some HOAs that planted a ton of trees, and unfortunately, planted trees that really, really like to push up our sidewalks.
right,
And so then they file things for us to come fix them.
right.
So if we sweeten the pot a little bit and say, hey, we got this, you do it, but we're not gonna replace the sidewalks if you all don't fix the root cause, so it's.
Yeah, I think
Don't
that's fair.
those trees between the sidewalk and the street belong to the city?
No.
from the development that put them in there? It's not part of their property. Like along Woodcrest, you know, where all the trees are and the fences, and then there's the sidewalk, and then there's the street, and then between the street and sidewalk.
If it's in city right away, the city would have control of the ultimate.
I think it depends on where it
result.
is.
Yeah, it probably
Because
would.
that's not
there's-
their property, is it?
The easement in front of my house is my property. It's just an easement, so there's restrictions on how I
Come
can
back
use
on the
it.
backside. of it.
On the backside, I guess if it's inside your fence, it belongs to you. If it's
Yeah.
outside that fence,
That's
it
what I
belongs
was
to
thinking, so those trees would
Yeah.
belong to the city,
Yeah,
I'll
that's
go
right.
whack them down.
the city or Encore, whoever owns that back there.
Well, people would love it if we start cutting down the trees, wouldn't
They all gripe about them because
Really?
they leave a bunch of junk on the
Oh,
ground and everything, so there's no sense in leaving them, I mean.
Obviously, it's a bigger
I think
project
y'all-
than at first.
Yeah, there's a lot of discussions, yeah.
I think even the city paid to have them trimmed. Remember when the fire truck came through and they had all those trees trimmed right there? I think the city had to pay for that too.
Yeah, we do trimming on a somewhat regular basis, just to make sure the right of way is clear,
You
so
just
that.
gotta, you just gotta cut that one big limb down.
It
One
goes
that's on the
up
ground?
anyway. It goes up anyway.
Now, when they did the detour on Woodcrest, that's, because I had discussions with Randy, because trucks were hitting it and branches were getting busted and everything. So they went through and trimmed them.
And trimmed them all up and everything. And I thought the city had to pay for that, so
They did.
I think so. Well, just save some money. Quit trimming them, just knock them down.
Next project is related to signage, which would include gateway, welcome, monument signs, as well as wayfinding. So once you're here, navigating your way around. I think Susie's the project leader. She's already worked on some of this to identify the priority locations. This would probably be something we roll through our annual budget process, and then, like with a lot of these other things, we'll make a recommendation and move forward. There was an economic development plan that the city council, before I came, had contracted with a third party to do. It's been some time since that's received some attention. We've made a lot of progress based on that plan. So I think the first step was to do a workshop, maybe go over what exactly is in there. We could either, review that plan in-house, kind of piece by piece, or get a third party like the council did in the past. And then do some updates and bring some action items. I think some of the things that probably need council consideration would be broadly incentives, how they're used. We're entering a phase where we're pretty well built out, and we probably should consider incentivizing redevelopment, which city council has in the recent past with the old fire station project and other things. We might want to talk about some target industries to go after and recruit. So-
Hotel.
Yeah, hotel, that's another project. But yeah, I think all good discussions, and again, 2016, things have changed, it's time to revisit. Yeah, Pedro's on there, Pedro's gonna be, and Pedro is actually at a recruitment event in San Antonio this week, working on retail recruitment, along with Retail Coach and lots of other folks. Next project is to review a street maintenance fee. Staff leader be Jared Kersey. Our next door neighbor in Fort Worth recently went through a process to, I believe effective this budget year, they're going to establish a fee, fixed fee for dedicated funds for street maintenance. There was a consultant hired in Fort Worth that did that work effort. If we proceeded down this route, I think we should do the same. Pick a consultant, they figure out the formula and the decision matrix. Probably not terribly different than when we engaged a financial consultant to do our rate study. It'd be a similar type firm or an engineering firm. I think Freese and Nichols might have done Fort Worth's. The reality is, with our limitations, 3.5% related to our tax rate, I don't see a way we would substantially increase our streets maintenance absent some other funding source, because as you're aware, year to year, it's all we can do to do the same service level with cost increases and inflation and that sort of thing. So I think it's timely and something we should consider. This is something we talked about in the past to update facility deposit fees, rental fees, and program offerings. I think it's been a fair amount of time since some of these things have received attention. It's just time. I know that Vicki is, oh, that's impressive. She waited till the bitter end.
She's here.
Yeah. She's not eating dinner yet. Anyway, this will be probably a quarter one, quarter two thing, and I think famous last words, relatively simple and straightforward. So they're working on, since at the Recreation Center, bringing in new programs since they have the full space with our new facility across the street. Yeah. The mayor mentioned the hotel recruitment. The piece of that before we go and try to attract a hotel operator is they want a market feasibility study. So they're not going to come to a market that's not proven or is risky. So that would be the first step. That would be a third party that would look at the trade area and identify sites, that sort of thing. So third party that was specific to that, of which there are many, we'd bring that, present the options to council, and then probably would be a budget item. We would run that through the budget. If it's the council's pleasure to move forward, we would go ahead and budget for that.
Hey, Gabe, just a general question. Is this on our website, or will it be on our website?
Yeah, we have a dedicated, and we'll update it with,
So we don't have to take pictures on everything?
yeah, we'll update it. We've got a.
I knew it was somewhere, okay.
Yeah, we've got a work plan tab, or we did. It probably needs to be updated. So we'll just add our new projects. I think last year we added links to the council meetings where various projects were discussed. So I think going forward, we'll talk about these projects monthly, just kind of quickly, not, each project. The cybersecurity audit and risk assessment, Greg, it would be the staff leader. He has had preliminary discussions with some of our contracted vendors on getting a scope of work for that effort, like pretty soon, probably within the next month or two. That's iWork and Darktrace, is that correct? Yeah, so we'll get some deliverables for you to review with a vendor we already are working with, and then
So we think we're having basically a outline of what we're going to do by, say, I thought I already have my work, but I have Darktraces.
Yeah.
They were a little bit harder to get to who I needed to talk to do this for me. So it doesn't surprise me that I don't have anything from them, but I kind of thought I would already have something for my work for this. But I have another meeting tomorrow, so
yeah, it's in the works. Minimum property standards compliance, specifically related to hotels. This is a project we've done in the past. It's probably been 3 years since we've done it. Makes sense to follow up on it. So the staff leader.
on this from the last time we had minimum property complaint, is this where we're doing extra audits and stuff against them, or what?
Yeah.
You're talking about the register at each facility?
Yeah, it says hotel motel ordinance hand delivered to occupants.
Yeah, anything to deal with the hotel motel staff went by there and dropped off the ordinance to make sure they know what they're gonna be gauged against. That's already been done. And once a month, unscheduled time, staff are gonna go by there and check the register to actual occupants, do room inspections if necessary. That's part of that.
We may, you may recall last time we spoke about this, we didn't meet the threshold to pursue the nuisance abatement procedure through the State Attorney General's office. I don't think that the arrests have, there are certain hotels that have generated to arrest, but I don't think it meets a requirement for that process. But if it did, we would, the chief, we would have some conversations to look at nuisance abatement function if it merited.
And I'm gonna keep pushing this, because I'm sort of sick and tired of some of this, and I'd really take the gloves off. I know there's legal issues, but if somebody asks me where the crime is in Saigon, and I can point to it, that's a problem. I can tell you today where most of it is, 90%, I don't know, chief would know, but I'm throwing out numbers, sorry. A lot. Is it just a couple different places, and how can we fix that? I'm just so tired of that.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be something the city can do to make it safer for the citizens, so.
Yeah, and this is a recurring issue before my time. The building staff had some pretty elaborate interventions with one operator. I think it was pretty close to the point of where the facility was going to be closed or shut down. The owner got it up to code, and then,
That was an apartment complex, yeah.
It-
It wasn't a hotel, that was an apartment complex
yeah,
initially.
it's time, and we've done this before. Minimum property standards focused on it.
It seems like this is just, it's just an ongoing issue that we're just gonna have to keep on top of.
Yeah, what are our options? What can we do?
And then last would be to review the strategic plan. What I would recommend is, as we do this monthly, we just kind of go through some of the elements in the plan, a little piece at a time, once a month. The strategic plan, I can send you all out a copy of it. We've made good progress since 2018, when it was drafted. I don't think we would change much substantially. It was a 15-year planning document, but it's good to kind of see where we are, where we want to be, and I think looking at that monthly.
When was it reviewed last?
I don't think we've done a formal review of the strategic plan in a few years.
Wasn't it like 2019 when you and I spoke?
That's when yeah.
That's about the,
I know my first summer here, which was 2018, we did a citizen summit, and that was that created the initial projects, the initial priorities, so.
So it's about a third of the way through, so it's a good time to take a look at it.
it's
Yeah.
overdue, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can send it to us all.
Yeah, I can do that. And the way we make progress on the plan is through the work plan. It's like a subset. So, all these things are related to the goals. Trying to think off the top of my head, safe community was a broad goal. Beautiful, at that time, there was a desire for, new and varied restaurant options. So all goals that probably haven't changed substantially since that time. So with that, there's an ordinance with the project list. I've outlined the project leaders, and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions for Gabe?
No, I appreciate it, Gabe.
I have one.
Sure, go ahead.
So you think this is all feasible to get completed this year?
I would, Councilmember, I'd put it back on you, and I wish I had a mirror, and I'd say, do you think this is? No, I think we've got a list that's healthy, but I think we've got a list that we can show meaningful progress, and so, yeah, by December 31, I think we can. I want to, promise my firstborn on it, but
Sure.
But
no,
yeah.
I want to be fair, and I want to make sure that it's
Yeah.
an achievable goal, even if we come close.
Sure. No, I think it is. I think the magic number for work plan projects is somewhere 10 to 12. I think we're right at 12. That's realistic, and
I mean, some of these are gonna be tough.
Yeah.
Right.
And that, you want some tough goals.
Okay.
Usually when you build goals like this, something like this, you want about an 80% confidence. That means you got a 20% chance of not. But if we do it like we did this time, we look at it, and they got some quarters, and then we say, okay, are we on plan? Is it gonna have to push? I think that'd be good.
Actually, it doesn't hurt my feelings if we miss one or two, because that means we shot high and we didn't quite
Right.
hit them. That's okay. We're asking a lot from staff, because this is on top of their regular day job.
That's right.
We got to remember that, so. And it's not just Gabe, it's the whole staff, so that's why it's important to remember. These are some big asks, some of these.
that's a good point, Mayor. So these projects are not my projects, they're your projects. They came from discussions from all of you or your priorities, so we're here to get through it.
They're your projects now.
Yeah. I'll wait for the vote. We'll see. I'm waiting with bated breath, but.
All right, any other questions for Gabe?
And then we talked about having monthly
Yeah.
check-ins, right?
So I think maybe the second meeting of the month, we just have a standing item.
That's what
project
I was gonna
update.
ask is on the agenda. Can we?
Yeah,
get
yeah.
that?
And the benefit of that is we have a video record. So
Absolutely.
we can all refer to many times that's been helpful to go back and say, okay, this is when we talked about
That way we
it.
can take pictures of the, yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, any other questions for Gabe? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve 4C as presented.
Valerie, second. Motion passes. We have a work plan for 2026. Congratulations, folks. Thanks for the effort. Look forward to it. Executive session is thankfully not required, so I will entertain a motion to
Mayor, I
adjourn.
make a motion that we adjourn, please.
Brack, second. Motion passes at 7:36. We're adjourned. Thank y'all.